Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Sergio, for having us, Amir and I. It's great to be here. It was amazing to hear from those prime ministers to kick off the day. Public and the whole organization here with the family office has done an amazing job in putting this together. I think both Amir and I love to see this as we both have engaged with partnerships for many, many years. And we're going to have a casual chat between us here, Amir. I mean, fireside chats are supposed to look like conversations between two old friends, and we have the benefit here of that actually being true. Yes. So we've been working together for many years in trying to bring rooms like this together. And it's amazing to see, the non-governmental actors having more and more space at the United Nations. And much of that's due to your work, Amir. You've been doing this for many, many years with the first the United Nations Fund for International Partnerships, and then which became the UN Office for Partnerships, thanks to you, and now with your own organization. So it's great to be here with you and to see you. We see each other always at this time of year, and throughout the year, of course, at events like this. But I'd like to start off by having you take us back a little bit. I also had the benefit of working for Ted Turner at the United Nations Foundation for many years. But you were there at the beginning in 1998 when Ted committed the $1 billion to the United Nations and helped build it and establish it. Can you talk about that and how that came about and really the beginning of this kind of engagement with organizations like we have with us today?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. First of all, a warm welcome to all of you, actually. It's great that you're here. You've listened to boring statements, actually, from people like us. But I want to say to you, it's like deja vu for me. Rob Skinner, Sergio Fernandez de Cordova. Between the three of us, we probably logged in thousands of hours building partnerships. And I'm the youngest one of the lot. These came, they've been here for years. We work together, and I have to tell you, it's one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me was the arrival of Ted Turner at the United Nations. Actually, even more exciting was when the UN made a mistake and recruited me. So in 1997, Ted Turner comes to Kofi Annan, then Secretary General, and says, Kofi, today I'm worth $4 billion. I was worth $3 billion in January of 97. I know my government hasn't paid its dues. I want to fill that gap. And I want to give that to you. So Kofi Annan looked around, and very nonchalantly, he says, Amir, did he say 1 million or 1 billion? I said, SG, he said 1 billion. Oh, can we take that? And I said, no, we can't take that. And we had an unbelievable top-class civil servant, Joe Connor, who was the former chairman of Pricewaterhouse. He said, let's figure out how to make this happen. Ted Turner was told that, look, it's very difficult. I'm not sure we can take it. He said, I don't care. I'm going to give it to you, and you'll take it. He went and announced at the UNA dinner, actually, gala dinner, that same evening. And then, of course, we were in a tiz. We didn't know what to do. Suddenly, the UN struggling with resources, struggling with countries paying debts and so on. Ted Turner comes along with zero agenda, not asking for anything, not saying, I expect you to do this, this, this. He said, I love the UN, I love what UN stands for, what the UN does, and what you guys do. And I want to give this in the service of humanity. And he didn't even say to us, I want to do these programs, if you remember. He said, tell us what you want. Which is very irksome. Later on, I'll explain that to you. So we set up, we said, how about you create a foundation, a 501c3? Then you pass those resources to us, and we created in the UN Fund for International Partnerships. So we created a conduit. He created a formidable board, of course, and the president and CEO of the organization at that time was Senator Tim Wirth, amazing humanitarian as well, great friend of Ted. And we set this up. And I remember I used to go to This is for my grandchildren. I used to go to CNN Towers in Atlanta. So there's Joe Connor, myself, then Ted Turner and his group, his lawyer, his financial advisor, all kinds of people advising him, telling him, "Are you crazy, Ted? You're giving money to the UN?" So Joe Connor said something to me, and Ted Turner said, "Amir, say it loudly, whatever you have to say." And I said, "Ted, I think you need to do differently the way." "Okay, Tim, can you take care of that?" I said, "Oh my God, I don't want this conversation like this. We want you to discuss it internally. And then you come back and tell us." So that was the start of one of the most exciting journeys for the United Nations, where the UN felt that there were people who were interested in doing good from outside of governments. Governments are committed. They still remain committed. Despite what you might hear, there are countries who want to make a difference. So I'll stop here, and then we...
No, absolutely. And the situation sounds a little bit familiar today as it did in 1998. So if anybody knows another Ted Turner, we talk about that a lot at the UN, another Ted Turner who wants to come in and provide us some support. We have the mechanism, because you set it up, Amir. We have the mechanism to move resources from private sector, from high net worth individuals and foundations into the UN system now because of your work, Amir. And also throw it over Public's doing a lot of that work themselves now as well in making all this possible. But Amir, so that's the beginning. 25 some years later, 27 years later from 1998, partnerships have evolved and changed and shifted significantly, from the CSR models to now we're talking about blended finance, innovation, much of what the prime ministers talked about, actually. Can you talk a little bit about that evolution? You were here watching it, still watching it. What do you think about that?
Thank you. So if I just said public, that's the solution. That's what Sergio has been pushing for, is about innovative collaboration. It's about convening people like yourselves and saying, we're not looking for charity. We're looking for investing in the future. So at the end of the day, you should be thinking of saying, how can I make a difference in the quality of lives of others while also improving my bottom line? So there's an economic and social component. It should always be the case. And partnerships, I'm very biased about this. If you go to any events, and if you see a step and repeat, look at that step and repeat. I don't know how many logos there are. I came through on the other side, one event, one logo. Me and myself. It doesn't work. It's there for a period of time and then collapses. But when you bring people together, magic happens. And that's what Public does. And over the years, and I tell you, when we first started in 97, as I said, there was a lot of buzz. We had 500 applications for a grant, and we decided we'd give grants of $100 million a year for the next 10 years of his $1 billion. 500 applications within the UN system. So just within the UN system. 90% of those were in that model. I know how to do it. WHO said they know health. UNICEF said they know health. UNDP said they know health. UN Women said they know health. And I'm saying, excuse me, are you not working together? So we tried to encourage them. And sure enough, and what we wanted was for them to actually empower NGOs on the ground, them to use local delivery systems. So that was the start of what we call multi-stakeholder partnerships. And we also said that, Ted, we want you to use the power of media. The power, your voice will carry a lot more than we can ever do. The UN cannot boast about anything. It doesn't have the capacity, and actually it's not supposed to spend time doing that. It's supposed to deliver or implement. So we used Better World Campaign, and Rob Skinner was there. I've known him since childhood. He's grown up, I'm still growing up.
You're still the same age.
Yes. And they helped us get the message out. And the idea was very simple. If it works, then you can repeat it, replicate it. If it doesn't work, we can tell you that how we failed, so you can learn from it and do it differently. So we allowed for 10% of our programs for advocacy, outreach, media, and so on. And that helped actually. And as a result of the UN Foundation engagement, and I'm taking you back, in the first 10 years, TED, UN Foundation, and the group generated another $600 million of collaborative partnerships. So huge impact. And that's how we wanted partnerships. And I have to tell you that UN has changed dramatically. Even though, if you step back for a second and say, what's the UN? The UN was set up as a country-based institution, group of countries coming together in partnership to focus on peace, security, and human rights. Today, that same thesis remains. In the early days, UNICEF, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all of those things came together through partnerships.
No, thank you, Amir. And I think if I could add another significant development that's taken place over the years is the fact that we now have the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and we have country teams everywhere in the world that are designed to work with us at the UN, but also to work with all of you. Those offices have partnerships officers in each of them, and that framework that the SDGs have created have really driven not just governments, but private sector entities, foundations, academia, to really frame all of their work together in that multi-stakeholder model to try and deliver on these goals. And that's why it's so important to have all of you in this room to think about how best you can fit into that. And thinking about that, Amir, how would you advise? We have all these, these family offices with us here today. The opportunities that they have to contribute to that multi-stakeholder partnership model that benefits them, because we're not talking about just giving grants and making this charitable. It's about bringing you in and actually partnering, and I think we've had the same vision for that all along. What advice would you give the folks here gathered?
So our family does a combination. We do charitable contributions where we try and see if there's any immediate urgent need. But the bulk of our focus has been on investing in others. And today we are in a state of polycrisis. We have situations which you cannot fathom. But remember, all things come to pass. In time, you might have a little bit of destruction. You might have a little bit of disruption. But out of that comes great opportunity. So you see that as an opportunity to make that major change today. And I would recommend use your patient capital for long-term outcomes. I would not be looking for overnight returns like Wall Street. If you look for it from that basis, then you look for a crash as well at the same time. So you don't worry about that. I guarantee you, within 2, 3, 5 years, you'll see results like nothing you'd probably anticipated. Initially, we all like to feel that we want to address COVID crisis, malaria, TB, etc. We also want to address poverty, and we do need to address poverty. But we also need to educate. If you think of a very basic concept, if you educate a child, the child grows up healthy, child learns better, earns better, and becomes a member of society. So we have a 15 to 20-year cycle. And you start with that now, for generations to come, you'll have that impact.
Great, thank you. That's great advice. And I think as we talk about the SDGs and all those issues that underlie the SDGs that you just referenced, Amir, I mean, we remain absolutely committed to them. They are the roadmap. That's how we're going to deliver for people on the planet going forward, and is what I say, leaving no one behind. So I'm getting the signal that we have about 1 minute left, Amir. So what in that last minute, what final words would you have for the group here on how they can best contribute to the agenda that we have in working through public and the partners and the family offices for sustainable development? What can we all do together?
So I would recommend choose an area. Choose an area of your personal interest. Don't be bogged down with other people telling you what to do. If you say, I believe in Gender equality, focus on that. If you say, I believe in women's empowerment, focus on that. If you believe in education, do that. Poverty, do that. Poverty also has long-term implications about creating jobs and so on. So pick those ones. Don't go for big bang effect. And start country, city, village, whatever. Public can guide you. UN can guide you. And start that program in a way, and remember, control it. Control it not in the sense that be a control freak, but manage that process as you launch it. And you will see, and ask for accountability, better governance. You're helping, you're strengthening a country, you're strengthening a community when you talk about empowerment. Transfer that knowledge to them. And then watch magic happen. And I want to thank you again for what you do, and may you always remain blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amir. As long as we've known each other, I always learn something from you whenever you have an opportunity to speak. And again, thanks to all of you for being here. We love to see groups like this coming into the UN, coming behind the walls that seem to separate the UN from New York and the world in many cases. But we're open for business. Thank you again. Bye.